everyone, it's Hunter and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, it is so nice to meet you. In today's video, I'm gonna be doing something really fun and something that I never do, and that is ranking books. So I have just completed all 7 of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books that are available to the public. So everything except for Carrie Soto is Back, which is going to be published on sometime in August. And I've already pre-ordered it and I'm super excited to get my hands on it and read it, especially since I have now completed the rest of her books. So I thought I would sit down and take a moment to rank them from my least favorite to my favorite, because Taylor Jenkins Reid has stolen all of our hearts and I'm so ready to share my favorites with you guys. So without further ado, before we get started, be sure to subscribe to my channel down below and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, she has 7 books. She has 3 historical fiction books and 1 more on the way, and 4 contemporary romance books, and I personally prefer the historical fiction to the contemporary romance because the contemporary romance, I don't know, I just thought that the historical fictions were like super awesome. So I'm going to start with number 7 on this list, and it is Maybe in Another Life. I gave this one 4 stars out of all of the books. This is the only one that has gotten a 4 stars. All the other books have gotten 5 stars for me. And the only reason I gave it 4 stars, I'll explain in a little bit. So basically you have this story of this girl. She moves home to LA and she moves in with her friend. They go to a bar, her first night back in town, and she runs into her ex-boyfriend, and her friend decides she's gonna go home because she's done hanging out for the night, and she says, you can either stay here and have someone else bring you home, or I'm going home so you can come with me. And so in that book, she can't decide which one she wants to do, so she does both. So in one timeline, it like separates into 2 different timelines. It goes to one timeline, tells what would happen if she went home with her ex-boyfriend, and the other is what happens if she goes home with her friend. And it explores those 2 different timelines and how one decision can make a huge difference in your life. How, you know, going with your ex-boyfriend is going to change the entire course of your life, and same with the other one. Like, the decision that you make will determine what happens to you for the rest of your life. And I thought this was an incredibly easy story to follow. I felt like both timelines were incredibly easy to read, and I thought they were both intriguing. They both had very different stories, which was very interesting considering like just how everything happens. The reason I gave this 4 stars is because they talk a lot about fate in this book. They talk about how, you know, you're destined to be with someone, or you're destined to do this thing no matter what happens in your life, no matter what roadblocks get in your way, like you're destined to do this thing or talk to this person or meet this person, marry this person, whatever. And there's a lot of emphasis on that. And so for me, the reason why I gave it 4 stars was because I thought that the book was going to lead up to those 2 timelines converging. So like aspects of both of those timelines were going to come together, and she was going to have this life, like I said, that meets up at the end, and that she was going to end up with one person at the end. And it didn't happen that way at all, and I really thought it was going to. And I felt like for a book that was so heavy on the emphasis of fate, I felt like it should have done that, if that makes sense. So that was the only reason why. I just felt like it wasn't what I was expecting and I felt like it could have wrapped up better if it would have, like, the 2 timelines would have come together. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, because I really thought it was an interesting concept and I really liked the story, but just the ending of it was not quite it for me. So number 6 on this list is After I Do, and this is a story about a couple who they are in a rut in their marriage. They have kind of hit a roadblock. They are unhappy in their marriage, but neither one of them really wants to do anything about it. No one really wants to say anything, so they decide they're going to separate for a year and see what happens. After a year, they decide, you know, let's see what happens. We'll see if we want to get back together or if we want to move forward with a divorce. So it goes back and forth in the timeline from this year of separation, and it goes through that year in the book, and then it also goes back and forth to kind of the lead up to where their marriage fails, if that makes sense. So from when they meet to getting married and all that fun stuff, getting a dog, everything. And I really like how a lot of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books have dual timelines. I think that's really cool. I think actually all of them have dual timelines, and I think that's really fun because you're able to see things from both sides of the story, so you're not just getting the present timeline. That makes sense. It kind of gives you foreshadowing and perspective that you wouldn't otherwise have, and so I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed that it was about a broken marriage. I feel like a lot of times we read romance novels and it's a whirlwind romance and everything's perfect, and obviously there's always like a catch at the end where something happens that breaks them up and then they decide to get back together. But in this one, the problem starts in the beginning, which is not something that you see very often, and especially in a romance. And so I feel like it definitely gives a more accurate display of marriage and how over time resentments can build, and having, I guess, like a look at the mundane in in marriage because, you know, in the beginning it is that honeymoon phase where, you know, you're all over each other and you're obsessed with each other and can't get enough of each other. The other person is the air you breathe. And then as time moves on, you know, it's not like that anymore, and your partner becomes a stable person in your life, the steady rock for you. And, you know, like the flame dies out, but that doesn't mean that you're not in love anymore. It just means that it's a different kind of love. And I feel like a lot of books is like fiery, spicy, romantic relationship, and this one I feel like explores the more mundane parts of marriage, if that makes sense. And so I guess I just appreciated a different kind of perspective, especially because this is a more popular author. So I feel like a lot of times those things get overlooked. The next one is actually the one that I read the most recently, and it is Forever Interrupted. I actually have this one. What did I do with it? Oh, it's right here. Forever Interrupted. This is the most recent one that I read. So this was the last one I had to read until I finished all of her books. But it is about Elsie, who has a whirlwind romance with this guy she meets at a pizza place. They end up eloping 6 months after they meet, and then 9 days after they get married. Ben is his name? Yeah. Ben dies after getting hit by a car, and she meets her mother-in-law for the first time in the hospital after he dies. Her mother-in-law did not even know she existed. And on the front cover it says not your average love story, and I have to agree because it's a different kind of love. It is a love story, but it's not just about love and passion. It's like passionate love. It's also about like love with just people, the people in your lives, the different kinds of loves that you can have in your life too. So I feel like this one is very important, I guess. It tackles topics of grief and moving on and that kind of thing. Something that I really loved about it is that we see grief from the perspective of mom and also the wife, and we see Elsie feeling like she doesn't really deserve the grief that she feels. She feels like she doesn't deserve to feel the grief that she does because of the short period of time that she knew and loved him. And so she's kind of learning how to heal and how to grieve despite having only known him for a short period of time. And I feel like this is another one of those things that like it happens right at the beginning. It's like you really want them to have this really long forever after, and it doesn't happen. And it shows you what happens and how she's able to move forward and just heal throughout life, if that makes sense. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I thought it was so good. But it's only number 5 on this list out of 7 because the others are just that much. They're just so good. So the next one is my favorite of the contemporary romances, but only 4 on this list, and it's One True Loves. We have this girl. She has this massive crush on this super popular guy in high school, and he asks her out, gives her the time of day, and it's a whirlwind romance. They fall in love, they get married, and then a year on their first anniversary, he is presumed dead in a plane accident, and she is trying to battle grief and getting over him and their short-lived marriage and just like move on with her life, and she wants to be happy and she wants to love again. And so she runs into this guy who had a crush on her in high school, and they end up being together. And then as soon as she's in a happy place in her life, her dead husband comes back. And so basically the rest of the story is her going back and forth between the memories that she has of her husband and the new memories that she has with her fiance. And basically she has to pick which one she wants to be with. And since her husband was legally presumed dead, she's not technically married to him anymore, but she is married to him. So she doesn't know what to do, and she kind of has to pick one. And from the very beginning, you're gonna pick your favorite guy, and you're gonna want her to be with the specific one. And I hope it's the guy that you want it to be. I don't know. I thought it was really good. I really appreciate how she learns how to be a different person. She becomes her own person. She grows a lot as a character. Her development is so different. I really like this one the best. So there's that. Number 3 on this list is the one that we all have read, and it is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. We have Evelyn Hugo, who is this glamorous movie star from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and she was married 7 times. And the story is broken up by husband. She has this journalist come, and she tells her the whole story of her life from growing up, moving to Hollywood, getting acting jobs, and everything that entails, and all of the relationships she has with every single person she encounters, all of her husbands and coworkers and friends, and even down to her daughter, and just everything. I thought it was a really beautifully told story. I thought it really pushes the envelope because I feel like it's different. It's definitely not what I was expecting it to be. So I definitely wasn't expecting it. There was a great plot twist at the end, which I was also not expecting. ending, just because the nature of these books is not really plot twisty, if that makes sense. So the fact that there was a major plot twist at the end was actually really, really cool. But it's number 3 because I liked the other 2 so much better. So number 2, this one is hard for me. Having to rank the top 2 was incredibly difficult for me, but number 2 is Malibu Rising, and this was my very first Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and I heard so many good things about this, and I knew it was super hyped, so I had to find out for myself if it was worth the hype. So we have the Riva kids. They are the children of famous singer Mick Riva, who is kind of the worst kind of person. And first, the book is separated into 2 parts. So the premise of the book, I guess, is there is this party that the Riva siblings throw in Malibu every year. So the first half of the book is a dual timeline. It goes back and forth between the past. So Mick and their mom meet to having a family, getting married, buying a house, having all their kids. So it goes back and forth between that and them prepping for this party that's coming. And then the second half of the book is the party. And I don't know how to describe to you how this book made me feel. I'm gonna see if I can find a review online, honestly, because I don't know how to describe it. I feel like each character, all the siblings, there's Nina, June, Jay, Hudson, Kit, Mick, you literally have so many different characters, and I really feel like it gives me feeling that I didn't know I could feel. Just the experiences between mom and dad here, the way that the kids are treated, the way that the dad is just a piece of crap, everything about it just like makes me feel so strongly. And like I said, I don't even know how to properly describe how I feel about it. I just feel like I was reading it and thought this is one of the best books I've ever read as I was reading it. And here's a review that I like. It says, "This was a book I hesitated on reading. I procrastinated so long and don't know why. One of the best books I've read in a very long time. I hope they come out with more to the story. I could not get enough. Don't wait to read. You'll be drawn to the characters, you'll cry, you'll laugh, and you'll be inspired by so much strength." That is a big thing, is that I feel like there were definitely, it's so hard for me to describe how I feel about this. I read it in September of 2021, so it was about a year ago, but it was so good. Holy cow, it was so good. I'm trying to find proper reviews. Oh, here we go. There are some authors who were born to tell stories, and TJR is one of them. I love the way I'm always pulled into her books. She has a way of writing words that seep into my very being. Every single thing the characters feel, from the big heart-shattering betrayals to the small moments of sibling pride, I feel. TJR doesn't just get a reader to sympathize for characters, but empathize with them, and that's what reading her books makes her books a truly great experience. I have to agree with everything that says. So that's how I feel about Malibu Rising. And if I feel that much about Malibu Rising, imagine how much I feel about number 1, Daisy Jones and the Six. I read this for the first time in March because I saw it at Barnes & Noble and I was like, I guess I'll finally read it. Wasn't too interested in it. It's my number 1. It's so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It is written interview style, and it is about this band. We have this girl named Daisy Jones. She is a wild child. She is so naturally talented and beautiful, and everyone is just drawn to her. And she has a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions that she wants to put into words when she's writing music. So she puts out an album, and it does okay, but it's not her music, so she doesn't really care. And then we have the Six, which is a band of brothers and a couple of other band members, and they also put out an album that's decent, but you know, could be better. And so their record label decides to put them together, and they are kind of unstoppable. And so the first part of the story is like their origin stories, them as individuals. So like the Six as an individual band and Daisy Jones as an individual singer. And then you have it's like the second half of the book. It goes based on like timelines. It takes place in the 70s, and the Six, and then it kind of goes through like Daisy Jones and the Six writing their album together and then going on tour. That's what it is. And then what leads to the inevitable breakup of this band. And it's like an interview of the band members talking for the first time about what happened since the band broke up. So I really enjoyed that. So first of all, I feel like Daisy is the girl that everybody wants to be or be with. Every girl wants to be and every guy wants to be with. And I feel like she is a star. Everybody loves her. She has natural charisma, natural power, natural beauty. Everybody loves her so much. But she is struggling so much. She is an addict. And then we have Billy Dunn, who is part of the Six, and he's kind of like the front runner of it. He's the lead singer. He wants to make all the decisions, and he loves music, and he has a family, he has a wife and kids, and there's just like a lot of back and forth. I really love how the story is told from all the perspectives because it's interview style. So it's like all of the bandmates are recalling their memories from this time that they were in the band together. And we have all of their different perspectives, all of their thoughts instead of just one person's. And then there's a plot twist of who the interviewer is. It's just everything. Everything. Let me see if I can find... Okay, here we go. The women in this book are also powerful and dynamic. There are so many strong messages about women empowerment, taking no one's crap, supporting other women, and demanding credit where it's due. Even the smaller side characters are much more layered than most supporting characters as we explore their own storyline. Plus the relationships between all of the women are wholesome, unique, and authentic, especially for a story with a bit of a love triangle, and I could not be happier with the superb study of the women of experience. The experience of these women. I was left so touched by the exploration of addiction. It's a disease very close to my heart, and I'm so pleased with how Taylor Jenkins Reid captured the dark, devastating nature of it. The story of both Billy and Daisy's respective addictions brings light to the glamorization of drugs at this time, while not glamorizing it themselves. This book exposes the truth about substance abuse while simultaneously carrying an air of hope and recovery for those who may be in a similar situation. I'll stand by this novel to my grave as one of the greatest fictional stories of addiction ever told. And the music. I just have to give a shout out to the author for writing so many superb original songs with their own distinct voice and sound. I cannot wait for the series to come out so I can finally hear the marvelous lyrics sung the way they should be. It talks about addiction, and there's a love triangle, and there's just so much stuff that's discussed. I highly recommend listening to the audiobook because there are inflections in all the words and pauses and breaths and laughter and so many things, and just hearing the tone of voice when different lines are spoken is incredible. I cried listening to the audiobook because it was so well done, and every time I get finished reading it I'm just like, I can't believe I read that and I have to read any other book ever again other than this one because it was just that good. And I know a lot of people probably don't feel the same way. In fact, I'm scrolling through and I see, you know, like 3 stars, 2 stars, 4, 3, but then there are plenty that are great. I was really emotional reading it, and if a book can make me feel a lot of things, then I am here for it because I feel like that's what fiction is supposed to do. It's supposed to make me feel things and think things and challenge me in ways that I did not know fiction could. That is all I have for today's video. That was a lot of talking, a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm planning on doing this with Colleen Hoover's books as well, but I want to wait until I have all of the physical books in hand because I want to show them to you. Most of my books are packed up right now. I do have a good handful of them, but I don't have them all. So anyway, with that being said, I have read all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's in like less than a year. So obviously that's not a huge accomplishment, but yeah. Anyway, that is all I have. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.